Hi, my name's Cassie and I'm one of the testers here at Sweet Pea, and today I'm going to be showing you how to hoop up different types of machine embroidery stabilizers. So the first one we're going to start with is our Cutaway, because that's our most used product in the office. So it's really important when you're cutting and hooping your Cutaway, you follow the grain. So I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but we actually have a grain through our stabilizer. And we want to make sure that that goes up and down within the hoop, not side to side, because that's going to restrict any stretch that you get. When you start with your hooping, have your hoop quite loose so that when you're putting the top layer of your hoop in, it's not clicking, and that's not overly stretching your stabilizer either. So I'll just show you how to do that. And with our hoop that we're using right now, it's got arrows that are on the top, so you want to make sure that they're in place. So you could see that that was quite loose going in, and then you can tighten it at the end. So you want to make sure that the stabilizer is not drum tight so that you're not overly stretching any of your stabilizer. You can slightly pull at the sides to make sure that there's no extra bulkiness, but you should be able to have like a clean piece when you first hoop that up. To prevent any slippage with your Cutaway, we suggest pinning along the side of your hoop. So I usually suggest doing 4 along each side. So this is how we do that. And the other technique we also use sometimes is using a double-sided tape, and I can also show you that in a moment. We also use this technique, the pinning technique, with all of our stabilizers, so it's a great way to reduce any slippage within your hoop. So the next technique we're going to show is the double-sided tape, and this one's really good if you're keeping things in the hoop for a longer period of time, or if you're using a wash away, you want to keep it in. So we use it along the inner hoop on the outer edge. So you just line that up and run it around the hoop. So now I've just trimmed the end of that. I'll move this to the side, and then you can pull the top layer of plastic off if it wants to play. There we go. And again, you can use this technique for all of our stabilizers if you prefer. So that one's already there. I do have a larger piece of just Cutaway here, so we'll just put that in the hoop now. There you go. And that's also nice and taut. And that's our double-sided tape. So another technique I really wanted to talk to you about was our bag stiffener. So this one doesn't get hooped at all. This one is worked in conjunction with our batting. So I've got our batting here, and that's cut to 8x8, so that's perfect for our 6x10 hoop, or 6x6 if you prefer. So we've got our batting. I'll pull this one out. And we use our 8x8 ruler. And this is just a quick and easy way to get the correct size. So when you're choosing whether to use the bag stiffener or not, you just need to make sure that you're thinking about what you've got on your hoop already. So we would suggest only using a bag stiffener if you're using it with faux leather, or if you're just using fabric, you could use both. So the bag stiffener goes underneath the batting so that you're still getting loft in your hoop. And that one gets placed down and stitched when you stitch your batting stitch down. And that gets completely removed. The seam gets removed after it's stitched down. And that keeps the structure within the block, but keeps the bulk out of the seam. So now we'll move on to our Feather-Lite. This is hooped the exact same way as our Cutaway. You just put it in your hoop, make sure it's nice and taut, but not drum tight. You can pin or double-sided tape along your inner hoop. And then with our tearaway, it's also put in the hoop the same way. The only thing you want to be really careful of is when you're hooping it, you don't want to pull at the side because it will tear away. That's the entire point of that product. So just be really careful when you're hooping that one. And just one more thing actually with the Feather-Lite, you want to make sure that you think about the product in which you're actually stitching on. So if you were to use this for our ethereal grove quilt, this product would not be suitable because it has so many stitches. You could create a pulling tension situation and your blocks won't be like even. So I would suggest instead using the Cutaway because that will create more stability for that product. So Feather-Lite is more so a product that you want to use with just a simple quilting or a more draped quilt. And our final product that we'll talk about is our recently back in stock Cutaway. So this can be hooped the exact same way as our Cutaway as shown before, or depending on how much embroidery is actually on the hoop or in the design, you could use 2 layers and that will just give it more support and keep everything in place when you're stitching everything down. I just wanted to go back and explain a little bit more about the hoop tightness and how important that is for when you're doing your embroidery. So it's really important to not have your hoop too tight when you're putting your embroidery in or pulling at the sides of the embroidery, because once you've stitched all your embroidery and pulling it out, you might have shrinkage because you're pulling your stabilizer so tight, it's going to have to go back in. So that's really important to not have it too tight. It's also important not to have it too light, because in the process of doing your embroidery, you could potentially have your hoop pop out and then you will have to either re-hoop or readjust and start again. So it's really important to make sure that you have the perfect tightness for that. So I wanted to go through some of the stabilizers there are within machine embroidery and how we use them. Within our range of stabilizers, we have 5 different types. So first we've got our bag stiffener, and we use that on any products that we want to have a bit of more stability. We use that in our bags or in our coasters or hangers. Then we've got our Cutaway, and that's for anything that we want to wash out of the seams, so any of our ornaments or our coasters. We've also got like a satin stitched coaster, which we would use that for. Then we've got our Cutaway, and we would use that for our table runners. That's our main product that we use the most. So we use that for our hangers, runners, some quilts that have too much embroidery on them. Then our Feather-Lite. We use our Feather-Lite for quilts that we want to have a bit more of a softer feel. And then we use our tearaway when we have a zipper in the hoop and we want to tear away the stabilizer after, so you can actually open the little pocket. And you can also use it on coasters. So our key takeaways from this video are hoop tightness, make sure it's not too tight, not too loose. Stabilizing, so making sure you have something to keep your stabilizer within the hoop, so we suggest either pinning along the side or using your double-sided tape. And then we want to just think about what design we're making and what stabilizer is required for that particular design. So we've got our tearaway if you're using zippers or you want to tear something out of the hoop. We've got our light as a feather, so if you want to have a more luscious quilt that has a little bit more movement. Our Cutaway, which is our main product, and we use that for everything. It's got a good structure. Our quilts, our handbags, all of those types of things. Our Cutaway, which is an ornament or anything that you want to wash away the stabilizer. And our Bag Stiffener, which is a product that we use to give more stability to any of our products. By mastering these simple but essential techniques, you'll be set up for perfect embroidery results every time. And that's all from me. Can't wait to see you next time.